I've been working on a bit of a fun project this week. As far back as I can remember, I always loved collecting papers, little bits of ephemera, little bits of paper pieces here and there, so things like business cards, packaging, tickets, letters, stamps, basically any interesting little piece of paper I came across. I remember having this big thick box in my bedroom. I think it had some sort of gold fabric cover over it, and I would keep all these bits of paper that I collected inside of it. Then when I started studying graphic design, I started creating all these amazing collages and textures that I would then integrate into my designs. So I would paste bits of paper down and glue them and rip them to make different textures. I would do like layers of painting. I'd do stitching with the sewing machine and make all these really fun and beautiful textures. I'd also go and take photos of textures around the place, kind of fun sort of urban decay that I thought looked really cool. So I was always really into texture. As I started my business and doing freelance work, I would integrate some of these textures into my designs. I would scan in different textures I created, stitching things that I'd done. I'd also create designs that had watercolor or had some sort of fabric texture to it, and it was a style that was quite popular in the 2010s. But of course, styles change and my business evolved over time to adapt to the demand, what people want. Now, fast forward to today, I was thinking about my business and what I've been selling at the moment. So a big part of my business is selling Canva templates. And I've noticed there's been a slight dip when it comes to sales on platforms, so on Etsy and on Creative Market. And I was sort of wondering what is causing this? Why has there not been as many sales at the moment? And of course, partly I do have a toddler that is taking up a lot of my time and I'm just not producing as much. So that can be part of it, of course. But I feel like there's a bit more to it than just the fact that I just don't have as much time. I think there's also the element that people are turning to AI for graphics. We've all seen those local AI business flyers. We know it's happening. People are starting to use AI more rather than just going and buying Canva templates. And so it got me thinking, well, the people that don't want to do that, the people that don't want to be using AI and creating AI graphics, those people want to create designs that are more human. And so I really wanted to tap into that, really help that market that still want things that aren't created through AI, making things that feel very human, very real, really interesting and unique, things that AI just isn't producing. And so it brought me back to my love of papers and textures and collecting little bits of ephemera and interesting things. I've always been collecting stuff, and yes, I still have a pile of stuff here and there, and I decorate my office with all sorts of little bits and pieces that I find that I just think are beautiful. So it started getting me thinking, what if I create my own design elements? What if I start scanning things, sketching, creating, stitching, and basically creating packs of elements that are unique? So I thought it'd be fun to take you along on the journey and sort of share a bit of behind the scenes, my process and things that I've been learning along the way, things that I'm still unsure about and working out, because I thought you might find it interesting to see that whole process, coming up with new products, and also just thinking too about your own designs of how you can add more human, unique elements to your designs, ways that you can bring some of that into what you create, so that if you want to be able to create designs that feel more human and less generated, you'll better understand the methods to do this. So the first thing I did was sort of take a bit of stock take, looked around, what do I already have that I could start to turn into elements? And I also started looking on Creative Market, seeing what else is out there. What kind of things are people buying right now? What sort of things are really trending and popular, to get an idea of the kind of stuff that people would actually be interested in, and also what I've got around that I can start turning into elements. I even started joking to my kids that we can just find money on the ground, in terms of, you'd look for bits of rubbish and bits of random bits of paper out about, and you could scan that and turn it into a texture, into an element. And how cool of a concept it is that you can basically create design elements from basically rubbish, from trash, from random things that people normally would just throw away, but are actually really interesting in terms of texture and shape, and can actually make really interesting and beautiful design elements. So one night I got out the scanner and decided to give it a go, decided to just test out my scanner, start scanning some things, see how it looked, and work out a bit of a process. Now, the first lesson was finding that this wasn't just going to be as easy as plonk something on a scanner, get it scanned, yay, we've got an element. I had to work out the best scanner settings to make sure it was as high quality as possible. I also had to work out how best to actually edit these elements once I put them into Affinity. As someone that for a very long time used Photoshop for such things, I had to sort of have a bit of a learning curve here to work out how best to do this in Affinity, and finding the tools in there that were going to make this really easy. So things like their background remover to quickly remove the background and cut it out, then finding the tools to touch it up, and also getting getting the hang of things like color correction and editing different bits out that I didn't want in there, because a big part of this I found too is it's not just simply a matter of scan something, there is an element done. You also need to go through the process of editing it, perfecting it, making it really good quality elements. So this could be simply just removing a background, or it could be tidying it up, so getting rid of things that you don't want on it. Maybe there's some marks or things on it that you don't want to have there. Maybe you want to simplify it in some way, things like that. Maybe the background didn't cut out quite perfectly and you need to touch that up. And then also color correction. So a big thing I noticed with this is people want to buy a collection, all these elements that work really well together. It's about curating it. And so learning color correction is really important to make sure that everything sort of fits well together color-wise. So if everything has a certain particular feel and tone, if you bring something in that suddenly feels like it clashes, well, it may just not be the right element for that set. And yes, there were some elements that I brought and thought, I don't think that's going to work. I might use that for another collection, but for this collection I'm working on now, I don't think that's going to work. And then there's other things where maybe it's just slightly off, and I just need to color correct it just slightly so that it feels like it's more cohesive and fits with the other elements. So once I got in a flow, I started to find this a lot easier, and I started to be able to scan and bring in objects a lot quicker. So that first night there were moments thinking, oh, this is going to take forever. For just one element takes me an hour to work out. How am I going to make a huge pack of elements? But I eventually got in a flow, eventually found a way to get through this a lot quicker, and really started to get the hang of the way Affinity does things so that it didn't feel so overwhelming. Another thing I discovered is that 3D objects don't scan so well. So when it comes to 3D objects, the problem with scanning is very flat. And so if you've got something that's slightly raised, it's going to look blurrier. And when you're creating an element, something that someone wants to use in their designs, they don't want that sort of focal point where something's in focus and something else isn't. It wants to look like an object where everything's in focus. And so if you scan something that's 3D, you're not going to get that. You're not going to have everything in focus. And so what I realized is that for more 3D objects, what I needed to do was actually set up a light box and take a photo of them. So luckily I had bits and pieces I could pull together to sort of make a bit of a DIY light box using my lights that I use for video, and using this sort of box thing that I had created before for my toddler to stand up to help me with cooking. I was able to actually turn that into a frame for a light box, put some softening fabric that I had around it, and then put some white paper in, and basically set up a bit of an ad hoc white box, which worked. It actually worked out. So then I was able to use my camera and take some photos of these elements. And as I said, you need to make sure that everything's in focus. So this took a bit of practice with some elements, trying to make sure that the whole image was actually in focus and nothing was sort of receding and out of focus. So that's what I really learnt there, is the importance of making sure that all parts are in focus, and there's certain objects that you realize isn't going to work for scanning and you need to take a photo. So another type of object I noticed is better with photos are shiny objects, because the scanner doesn't always pick up a nice shine. So for example, I wanted to scan some diamantes. I realized that's probably not going to scan so well. So I put that in my light box. And another thing that I found too is with something that's like a diamond, where you got those different points of shininess, that I sort of had to move it around until I got the way it reflected, the way the light reflected, just looking the way I wanted it to, because positioning it differently towards the light can actually give you a completely different look. So it's one of those things we really have to play around with light in order to get the right look and feel. Now, something that I'm still stuck on is transparent elements. So things like a semi-transparent envelope or packing tape, or things that are just that sort of partly see-through, trying to work out how best to actually scan them and make them actually partly see-through. So I've been doing some research, and Google's telling me I need to scan it with black over it, and then I can do some things in Affinity to make it transparent. So I'm going to play around with it. My experiments so far didn't quite work the way I hoped, so I'm going to keep at it, try to figure it out. If this is something you know how to do, please let me know down in the comments so it can speed up my process and work out how to actually pull this. Now, speaking of putting black behind it, the other thing that I learnt was some objects it was good to actually put dark grey behind them when scanning to create that contrast for when trying to remove the background. So some elements didn't work so well if you just had white behind it. Some things worked better if I put dark grey behind to then cut them out and also create some nice contrast there so that it just picked it up better with the scanner. Now, a few things that I learned as I did some research and looked at other people selling element packs. Something I've noticed that makes an element pack really interesting and diverse and very unique is using mixed media. So doing sketches, doing hand lettering. So a lot of mixed media there where there's different types of things. So it's not just simply going and finding some bits of paper, scanning them in. Yeah, sure, you could do that and that would work. But the best packs, the ones that are doing well and really performing, I've noticed, use mixed media. They're doing lots of different elements. And I think that comes into another thing that I noticed is that curation of making really big packs. So I've noticed often they're like 100 to 200 items and they all are cohesive. They all work well together. So then when you mix that in of having mixed media, all different types of styles, you're really creating for somebody a huge collection of elements that they can then use in their designs, and they know they all work well together and they're all different types of styles. So they can have papers for their backgrounds, they can have some drawn elements, they can have some scanned little paper elements and different bits and pieces. So by having that mixed media, it's really diversifying that pack, but still making it so that it all works really well together. And that's what really makes this valuable. It makes it more valuable than just going on Canva and looking for different elements or going on Pinterest and trying to find some random things. Because all these elements actually work together cohesively. They feel curated, they have a similar feel, they have a similar theme, and so it's easy for someone to create graphics from them because they know that it all works well together. And by having that big resource pack of different varied things and plenty of different items, they've got plenty to work with so that they can create a variety of graphics and know that they're all going to go cohesive and work really well and all have that same feel and theme too. So far I've created over 60 elements. I'm working on my first pack and I've got ideas for more. I'm excited to share more of this journey with you and what I end up creating. I hope it inspired you to either think back to the things that you used to love to create or things that you just are naturally drawn to and how you can bring that into your work, or how you can start to think about how you can create your own design elements for your graphics. Look around your home and things that you've got. Maybe there's things you can scan in, maybe there's things you could take photos of that you could bring into your designs that can make them more unique and more interesting. And I do have a video on this about creating things that you couldn't find on Canva, so you can go and check out that video too. I also share a variety of other different ways that you can create your own unique elements or find things that are a bit more unique. So if that's something that you're interested in, go check that video out as well. So I'm excited to keep working on this and see where it takes me. I hope it inspired you as well today. So if you'd like to learn more about branding, graphic design, and creativity, be sure to subscribe, and happy creating.